Introduction to Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton. I haven't had time to read this to my sister and her loving husband, so this is about the only excuse that I have to actually doing it. I really like this book. Introduction, in defense of everything else. The only possible excuse for this book is that it is as an answer to a challenge. Even a bad shot is dignified when he accepts a duel. When, some time ago, I published a series of hasty but sincere papers under the name Heretics, several critics, for whose intellect I have a warm respect, I may mention especially Mr. G. S. Street, said it was all very well for me to tell everybody to affirm his cosmic theory, but I had carefully avoided supporting my precepts with example. "I will begin to worry about my philosophy," said Mr. Street, "when Mr. Chesterton has given his." It was perhaps an incautious suggestion to make to a person only too ready to write books on the feeblest provocation. But, after all, though Mr. Street has inspired and created this book, he need not read it. If he does read it, he will find in its pages I have attempted, in a vague and personal way, in a set of mental pictures rather than a series of deductions, to state the philosophy in which I have come to believe. I will not call it my philosophy, for I did not make it. God and humanity made it, and it made me. I have often had a fancy for writing a romance about an English yachtman who slightly miscalculated his course, and discovered England under the impression it was a new island in the South Seas. I always find, however, that I'm either too busy or too lazy to write this fine work, so I may as well give it away for the purposes of philosophical illustration. There will probably be a general impression that the man who landed, armed to the teeth and talking by signs, to plant the British flag on this barbaric temple which turned out to be the pavilion at Brighton, felt rather a fool. I'm not here concerned to deny that he looked a fool. But if you imagine that he felt a fool, or anyway that the sense of folly was his sole or dominant emotion, then you have not studied with sufficient delicacy the rich romantic nature of the hero of this tale. His mistake was really the most enviable mistake, and he knew it, if he was the man I take him for. What could be more delightful than to have in the same few minutes all the fascinating terrors of going abroad, combined with all the humane security of coming home again? What could be better than to have all the fun of discovering South Africa without the disgusting necessity of landing there? What could be more glorious than to brace oneself up to discover the New South Wales, and then realize, with a gush of happy tears, that it is really Old South Wales? This, at least, seems to me the main problem with philosophers. It is the main problem of this book. How can we contrive to be at once astonished at the world, and yet at home in it? How can this queer cosmic town, with its many-legged citizens, with its monstrous and ancient lamps, how can this world give us at once the fascination of a strange town, and the comfort and honor of being our own town? To show that a faith or a philosophy is true from every standpoint would be too big an undertaking, even for a much bigger book than this. It is necessary to follow one path of argument, and this is the path that I here propose to follow. I wish to set forth my faith as particularly answering this double spiritual need, the need for that mixture of the familiar and the unfamiliar which Christendom has rightly named romance. For the very word romance has in it the mystery and ancient meaning of Rome. Anyone setting out to dispute anything ought always to begin by saying what he does not dispute. Beyond stating what he proposes to prove, he should always state what he does not propose to prove. The thing I do not propose to prove, the thing that I propose to take as common ground between myself and any average reader, is this desirability of an active and imaginative life, picturesque and full of poetical curiosity. A life such as the Western man, at any rate, always seems to have desired. If a man says extinction is better than existence, or blank existence better than variety and adventure, then he is not one of the ordinary people to whom I am talking. If a man prefers nothing, I can give him nothing. But nearly all people I have ever met in this Western society in which I live will agree to the general proposition that what we need in this life of practical romance, the combination of something that is strange with something that is secure. We need so to view the world as to combine an idea of wonder and an idea of welcome. We need to be happy in this wonderland, without once being merely comfortable. It is this achievement of my creed that I shall chiefly pursue in these pages. But I have a peculiar reason for mentioning the man in the yacht, who discovered England. For I am the man in a yacht. I discovered England. I do not see how this book can avoid being egotistical, and I do not quite see, to tell the truth, how it can avoid being dull. Dullness will, however, free me from this charge which I most lament, the charge of being flippant. Mere light sophistry is the thing that I happen to despise most of all things. It is perhaps a wholesome fact that this is the thing of which I am generally accused. I know nothing so contemptible as a mere paradox, a mere ingenious defense of the indefensible. If it were true, as has been said, that Mr. Bernard Shaw lived upon paradox, he ought to have been a mere common millionaire. For a man of his mental activity could invent a sophistry every 6 minutes. This clip is too long for YouTube, so I'm going to have to cut it into 2 different parts. Apologies on the length. This was just a clip of me just talking about something or the other for the second chapter.